This conference will now be recorded.
Hey guys, can everyone hear me? Yep. A very good morning and good evening, guys. Uh, just a couple of checks before we start. Anyone joining today who are not part of yesterday's demo? Okay. Cool. So we can get started. Okay. So a very good morning, guys, and good evening for the folks joining from US. Okay. Welcome to our comprehensive Python training course. Today being the first session, let me introduce myself. Yesterday, I have given some introduction about me. Um, I'm Suresh, your trainer. Have close to 8 years experience, 8+ years of experience working on data related technologies like data engineering and data science and Python, especially using Python. Okay, so I have been into this training field for almost 5 years now, where I have been training folks on big data, Spark related technologies, Azure cloud, okay, and data science Python. And since this is a Python session, I have close to 2.5 years of experience training folks on Python. Okay, and let me talk about my work experience. I have worked for various MNCs, starting from TCS, and then I have been part of a couple of big four firms, Ernst and Young and Deloitte. Currently, I'm working for one of the reputed financial organization. Okay, and talking about my clients, I have worked for Google as a contractor. I got a chance to work on digital marketing domain. I have got a chance to work on various domains, like starting from banking and then insurance. Then I have got a chance to work with forensic investigation and dispute services. Okay, we call it as FIDS. And currently, I'm working for one of the asset management firm. Okay, and most of my career I have been using Python as my prime programming language to implement solution for various clients, right? And I am a reputed trainer on data technologies, especially data engineering and Python. You can just search for my name in Google. You'll get to know a lot of things. You can get to see some feedback as well, some good feedback about my courses. Okay, so this is a comprehensive introduction about myself. Okay, I would like to hear from you as well. A couple of things, guys. Please use chat window for communication. The reason being, the session is being recorded, and I don't want to have too many disturbances around. Okay, so we'll try to use the chat window as much as we can. But if you feel you have to talk, you can definitely unmute yourself and you can talk. But my only request is to make sure that only request to you is to make sure that no noises around you. Okay, in the interest of others. Okay, now please feel free and introduce yourself to everyone, guys. Maybe your name, the current organization you are working for, your role, okay, and the current technology you are working on, and reason for taking up this course. Maybe these are the few things which I would be interested in. If you are a fresher, just mention you are a fresher, your name, and you are a fresher. Maybe your bachelor's background or master's background. That would help. Okay, we'll spend maybe 2 to 3 minutes for that, guys. Please do that. Like I said, when you're chatting in the chat window, you have an option to send it to everyone, or you can send it privately to me. Okay. So since this is an introduction, I would encourage you to introduce yourself to everyone. Hi, Rishit. Hi, Maitreya. Hi, Narsimha. Hi, Naga. Let's try to wrap this up real quick, guys. Hey, hi Manoj. Hi Kumar. Hi Srinivas. Hi Funny. Hi Naresh. Hi Bhavya. Hi Pappu Kumar. Hi Manojna. So you're working for Broadridge. Broadridge is one of our, you know, primary consultants of couple of services. To know that, we purchase a lot of data from Broadridge. Okay. Cool, guys. Let's get started. Maybe this session could be repetitive for folks who have joined yesterday. But yesterday, demo was scheduled for only an hour, so we were in a rush to talk about a lot of things. Uh, this is your session one. Today we are going to talk about, we'll get started with the things in a slow pace. Okay. So first couple of weeks, everything would be basic, guys. I mean, don't expect too advanced concepts. We'll start from very basic, and we'll keep on, adding the complex examples. Okay, so any topic, whatever I teach, would be teaching a basic concept, what exactly it is, what it does in the back end, and then we'll start with simple examples, then we'll move to complex examples. That's my teaching methodology. Okay, so if you are a mid-level experienced guy or you have 10 years experience, it doesn't matter since every one of you are new to programming. But like I said, what are the examples on a whole? What are the examples I'm going to show you on a whole would give you some good exposure to the Python programming. But like I said, when I start, I'll be starting with pretty basics. Okay, hope that makes sense to everyone. Now let's get started. So like most of you have said, you have taken Python course because this is one of the most happening programming languages in the market right now. Okay, so definitely I do agree with you guys. This is the most happening programming language in the market right now. Like it has its applications spread across various domains, be it data engineering or be it writing some cloud applications or be it data science, developing data science application, so whatnot. Okay, So Python is everywhere. Even if you want to develop web applications, yes, Python would help you to do that. And the father of Python is Guido van Rossum, Guido van Rossum. He's the guy who have invented Python, and it started in 1991. It started in 1991. I would say pretty latest language, okay, but it has shown its dominance over these past couple of decades, okay. And the current version which you are going to use now is Python 3. These are the few things which you would want to know, okay. This point is very important. Okay, the current version which you are gonna learn is Python 3. So whenever you are downloading Python or whenever you are referring to the version you are learning, it's Python 3, guys. Okay, its predecessor is Python 2.7. Its predecessor is Python 2.7. You might ask me, boss, what is the difference between these versions? I would say maybe few syntaxes and few libraries, additional libraries added. Okay, so say for example, in Python 3, maybe if you want to print something, this is how you do it. You write a print statement, and then let's say maybe you want to say hello world. This is how you do it. And this is not supported in Python 3. Okay. In Python 3, you would be doing the same thing this way as a function. Print hello world. Okay. So likewise, we have few differences between these versions, guys. So we will not be comparing the functionality for every topic we discuss, but we will be learning Python 3. Okay, and not many differences though. So for example, you want to scale down your code to Python 2.7 with minor modifications, you should be able to do it. Okay, but latest version is Python 3. Okay, and first couple of weeks we will be using Google Collaborative Notebook, guys, just to make you comfortable with Python to start with. We will be using Google Colab Notebook. Okay, or we call it as Google Collaboratory Tools. Okay, because in the first couple of weeks I don't want any one of you to struggle installing Python and wasting your time over there. So let's try to get ourselves acquainted with Python using the easiest possible tool that is available, and then we can dive into how you can install your Python in your Windows or Mac or Unix, whatever it is, and then how to set Python path, and then how you can use Python terminal, and I mean to run it in REPL mode, or how you can write your code in a file and execute that file as a Python file. I'll be walking you through those things as well. Okay. Like I said, by the end of this course, I will be covering all the tools, all the premier tools that are available for developing Python code in the market, so that you will not be new to any tool you see when you are developing Python applications. Okay. But like I said, this is the one which we are going to use, Google Collaborative Notebook. And this is a free tool provided by Google, guys. And all you need to have is a Gmail account. All you need to have is a Gmail account. Okay, I'll be showing you how to set up this tool. Not much configuration is required. It would hardly take a couple of minutes for you to set this up. Okay, but yes, first couple of weeks we will be using Google Collaborative Notebook, at least for our first module. Okay, now let's get started. Again, we'll start with the basic programming language definition. But today we'll try to create that environment, and we'll try to make our hands dirty. Okay, at least for a few basic things. And I don't believe in a lot of theoretical gyan, guys. So what are the theory I'll have to give you, I'll give you, but I'll try to explain anything using examples, and only examples. Okay, so that's how you learn a programming language. And I would also highly recommend you to do the same. And since this is the first session, I'll be spending last 5 or 10 minutes on explaining what you will have to do from your part to get the best out of this course. Okay. Now let's get started with the basic definition. What is a programming language? Like I said, I would always love to have an interactive session, guys. You can interact with me as much as possible using your chat window. Okay. So what is a programming language? What do you think of a programming language? How do you think of a programming language? A set of instructions given to a computer, correct? Any other answers or any other interpretations? Okay. And another thing, like whenever I'm asking for any questions, if you don't really know the answer, you are free to use Google. Okay. My point of asking questions is not to test your knowledge, but I want to make you engaged. Okay. I want to engage you. That's the only reason behind asking questions, guys. So during our course, I will try to pull your leg because I don't want you to be in your comfort zone while listening to the session. And I would recommend you to do the same thing. Don't let me be in my comfort zone. Keep asking questions. Okay. So what is a programming language according to you? Like I said, you can use Google. Language which is understandable by the computer. Always remember this, guys. I'm not testing your knowledge whenever I'm asking questions. Okay. And there is no rule like answer only if you know it. Okay. It's a formal language. Okay, let me explain. So programming language provide you a means to communicate with your computer. Provide you a means to communicate with your computer. Okay. So maybe you can think of your computer like a human whose brain is washed out. Whose brain is washed out. Okay. So it's having an empty brain, and whatever you tell your computer, it will just do it. Okay. And how you gonna tell that? Using a programming language. A programming language is nothing but a set of instructions. A set of instructions given in an order to perform a task. I like that word called order, Manoj. Okay. So set of instructions, you cannot give the set of instructions the way you want. You have a set of guidelines to be followed. You have a set of guidelines to be followed while you are instructing your computer. Okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, so on and so forth, right? So that's what we call as a programming language. And then there are multiple programming languages in the market, guys. Starting from if you typically take a computer science guy, or if you typically take a guy who is working on IT, or who took some training experience, I mean, who took some training on programming languages, these are the ones which they keep hearing, starting with C, C++, and then Java, Python, Perl, okay, and then the latest sensation Scala, and then there are other languages like Golang, okay, and then Lua, 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 Lua. It's a scripting language though, right? So these are the various programming languages, and each of these programming languages can be categorized into one or the other categories. There are multiple classification of these programming languages, but at the end of the day, yes, programming languages are the set of instructions which you give to your computer. Okay. Now there are a few components which you'll have to understand before we jump on to talking about Python features. So talking about this classification, you have multiple classification, guys. So first type of classification, whether it is compiled or interpreted language. Okay, and second classification is low level and high level programming languages. And the third classification is whether this is procedural or object oriented programming languages. Okay, you will be able to better understand these two classifications in today's session itself, guys. But third classification, try to have some high level understanding. Probably when I start OOPS, you will be able to appreciate the difference. Okay, so first things first, don't worry about syntaxes. Okay, whenever you are learning a programming language, you'll have to remove two things from your mind. Okay, when you are implementing solutions in real time, you are not going to remember the syntaxes like you do in your universities. Okay, you don't really need to remember a single syntax. If you ask me, I'm a dumb brain. Okay, I can't even remember syntax for a for loop. Let me be brutally honest. Okay, always knowing the concept and designing the solution is more important when you're working for the real-time projects. Okay, you always have Google to help you out with the syntaxes, so don't bother about the syntaxes. Sometimes, syntaxes could look clumsy or complex, which would create an element of doubt in your mind. So first things first, remove that from your mind. Okay, always comfort yourself saying that syntax is not important. Okay, concept is important, and that's one thing. And second thing, when you're always try to take one step at a time. If I'm explaining something, don't think too much about the next concepts, or don't think too much about which is not yet covered. Okay, we will slowly reach there. I mean, you can count on me and you can count on yourself. This is your session 1, and by the end of our session 10, you will see the difference. Okay, you will start feeling comfortable, but let me tell you what, stick to it. Okay, stick to it, don't quit. Right? Yeah, let's move on. With the first classification, I would want to discuss low level and high level programming languages. Okay, so what is the difference between low level and high level programming languages? Any idea? What is the difference between low level and high level programming languages? No ideas? Please feel free to use Google. Have your mobiles handy. Because computer only can understand low level languages, zeros and ones. Okay. Yeah, let me put it in a layman terminology again. Low level is machine friendly. Low level is for assembler to process. Mostly in machine level contains binary code. Perfect. Okay, let me put it in a layman terminology. The difference between low level language and high level language. So low level language is a machine understandable language. Low level language is machine understandable language, whereas high level language is human understandable language. Okay, so mostly low level languages looks like a binary programming, any assembly level programming language, or programming languages like Fortran can come under this low-level programming languages. Okay, and the high-level programming languages is for someone or programmers who can read and write the code. Okay, so these high-level languages, examples of these high-level languages are C, C++, Python, Java. All these programming languages comes under high-level programming languages. And there is another way of classifying the same low-level and high-level programming languages as well. Again, I'm not a theoretical guy, but when I started my training career, I have realized I have to be little theoretical. So I started reading a lot of theory. Okay, so I have found this classification somewhere, like high-level programming language, sorry, low-level programming languages are machine-level programming languages. I mean, that's one way of defining it. There is another way where I have read in a couple of websites. Okay, so they have defined low-level programming languages as the ones which doesn't have a lot of libraries. The ones which doesn't have a lot of libraries. Okay, so even for the simplest thing, you will have to write a lot of code. Even for the simplest thing, say for example, you take C. They consider C as a low-level language. The reason being C doesn't have a lot of libraries available. Okay, maybe if you want to implement a list functionality, a linked list functionality. I know linked list is French and Latin for you at this point in time, but let me consider list. Okay, so list, you have to write close to 100 lines of code easily in C. But when it comes to Java or Python, you don't really need to write a lot of code. Instead, you have a library available. The same functionality can be used in a single line of code. Okay, so uh, there are a couple of websites which define your low-level and high-level programming language in this direction as well. So they consider C as low-level language and Java and Python as high-level language. But the standard classification is what we have discussed. Low-level is machine understandable language, high-level is human readable and human understandable language. That's the standard definition. Okay, maybe if you come across the blogs where I was mentioning about the second direction, so I don't want you to feel confused. Okay, now to which category Python falls into, high level. Okay, and the next classification which I would want to discuss is compiled and interpreted. Compiled and interpreted. Okay, uh, does anyone have working experience with C, C++, or Java? Have you ever touched those programming languages? When I say working experience, I don't want you to be worked with the complex examples, but at least simple examples like A plus B kind of, or printing hello world kind of. Okay, cool. Only two of you. That's fine. Now, let me explain this component called compiler. Let me explain this component called compiler. Okay, so this compiler, like I said, Python is a high-level language. Not just Python, like what are the programming languages we know? C, C++, Java, Python, Scala. They are all high-level programming languages. Okay, so we implement code in English. Okay, we implement code in English, at least the group of characters and numbers, I would say. Whenever you look at your code, you would be seeing group of characters, numbers, and then special characters, special symbols. Okay, like semicolon or star or braces. Okay, or cap or exclamation. They're all what we refer to as operators, which we will be studying over next few sessions. Okay, but these are what you see whenever you are implementing a code or whenever you are designing a solution. Okay, but but if you ask me, was will computer able to understand what are the characters or numbers we are typing as a part of our code? Definitely not, because your computer can understand only zeros and ones. Now, who is converting the code you have written to the language that is understandable by your computer? Okay, so that job is done by compiler. So compiler is the component which would convert your code to machine understandable format. As simple as that. And every programming language has its own compiler. For example, if you are using C, you'll have a C compiler. If you are using C++, you have C++ compiler. You are using Java, you have Java compiler. Python compiler. Okay, just like multiple languages you have in India, and corresponding translators. Okay, say for example, you want someone to convert Telugu to English. Okay, you can't go and get someone who knows Tamil and English. He'll not be able to do the job. Same way, every programming language has its own compiler, guys. Okay, so compiler first compiles your code into machine understandable format, and once that is done, your computer would be executing your code. Okay, or your computer would be executing the instructions you have written, right? So compiler is the one which is doing that job. Now, now you have a couple of features compiled and interpreted, right? I mean, couple of categories. Let me explain. Maybe you want to print a hello world, a string called hello world. So usually the first program which we do in any programming language is hello world, guys. Okay. So if you talk about C program, this is how the program would look like. Int main function. Okay, and then maybe printf, hello world, and then semicolon, return 0. This is how your C code would look like, basic C code. And then if you want to do it using Python, sorry, if you want to do the same thing using, one moment, if you want to do that using what you call Java, this is how you can do that. Okay, class hello world or class hello. Okay, and then the public static void main, void main, and in this main you will have string args, arguments which you are passing as an array, string args. Okay, and then you have print statement. So I would use println hello world, semicolon, and then close bracket for your main method and close bracket for your class. This is how you would implement the same code in Java. And these two codes you'll be saving in a file. Let's say the file name is maybe hello.c in this case, and then you have hello.java in this case. Like I said, don't worry too much about syntaxes, guys. Relax and enjoy the session. Okay. Anyway, we are not going to write code using C or Java. I just want to explain the difference between compiled language and interpreted language. Okay. And when you want to execute this, there are two steps that are involved for both these files. Here in C++, C, you will be compiling this code first. You will write the entire code and then you'll compile it first. If you have any compilation errors you will get to know at this stage. Same thing is with Java. Once you have written this code, you will be compiling it first. So compiling your Java code would produce a bytecode. If you have ever heard about that term, let's not deep dive, but after compilation, you will get a bytecode which is machine understandable. Okay. And once you have compiled this entire code, then you will execute it. Okay. Same thing is the case. Same is the case with Java as well. For compiling your code, you will be using javac command, and once the bytecode is generated, you will be using Java command to execute it. Okay. So two steps that are involved. First, you will compile and then you'll execute by writing the entire code. You have to complete the entire code. Okay. So that's not the case with interpreted languages. These two are the typical examples for compiled languages. There are other languages too, but interpreted languages, you don't really need to do that. Okay. Just go and give print hello world. It will go and execute that statement. Print hello world, it will go and execute that statement. Okay. So you don't really need to implement the entire solution to compile your code. You can write a line of code and then you can run it. The single line will be compiled and get executed. Okay. So let me introduce the Google environment as well to you. Let me open my Google. Okay. So this is a cloud-based tool, guys. This is a cloud-based tool, right? Provided for free of cost by Google. You don't need to install anything. Okay. So I'm assuming that most of you are having. Guys, just give me a second. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm assuming that most of you are having Gmail account. So that will do the trick. Google Colab. Click on this first one, or you can directly just select this collab.research.google.com. Okay. Now let me click outside this panel. Okay, so this is how your home page of Google Collaboratory would look like, guys. So I'm going to File on your top right corner, and then I'm selecting New Notebook. Okay, so this environment is what we call as notebook environment. Yes, Manoj, I'll have to select it, but I don't want to select it that way. Okay, I just wanted to show you the home page with options, right? So guys, if you observe, this is how your Google Collaboratory environment would look like, and this is exactly same as your Jupyter Notebook. The only difference is Jupyter Notebook runs on your computer, whereas Google Collaboratory environment runs on cloud, Google Cloud. Okay, so Google is backing you up with enough resources, So if your system is slow, or if your system is already suffering with a lot of lag, you don't really need to bother about installing all these softwares. You can happily use this Collab notebook. Okay, so all my code repository is there in Collab itself. This is one tool which I always bangs on. Okay, maybe let me name this as Python Playground. And let me mark it as maybe this is my 15th batch, Python Playground 15. Okay, and you can start writing your code. Now your first code, print, maybe I would like to print hello world. And before I run this, I'll have to connect this to runtime environment. Okay, so connect to hosted runtime, and you will get very good amount of resources, guys. You can't even imagine that even your system wouldn't have this high configurations. Okay, so you are given Python 3 Google Compute Engine backend, and the RAM they have given you is 12.69 GB usable, which means you have got close to 16 GB in your terminology, and you have got a disk space of 107 GB. Okay, which is huge, I would say. And this Python 3 Google Compute Engine backend is pretty powerful, definitely than your i3 or i5 processors. Okay, now there are a couple of ways of executing this. Either you can click on this play button, okay, or the alternate being using control enter. Using control enter is the shortcut, and you can develop your code line by line. Okay, so this is the reason I called it as interpreted language. You don't really need to develop the entire code. Maybe let's say I want to write a simple code to add two numbers. This is how I can do it. I create a variable a equals to 10, execute. Okay, now maybe I want to see what a is. I'm printing a, it should show the value of a. Okay, and then maybe I want to see b, I want to initialize b is equals to 20, and I want to see what value b is holding. Okay, and maybe I want to add both of them. C is equals to a plus b, and I want to see what value c is holding, 30. So your life is made easy with Python, guys. This is what we call as interpreted feature. Okay, we can write one line at a time and execute it and check what the output it is holding. Now you can easily understand the difference between other programming languages and Python, how easy your life is going to be using Python. And debugging is this easy. You might ask me a question, boss, how are we going to productionize this kind of code? Because if you see, there are a lot of print statements, a kind of a print statements, and you are writing one cell at a time. That is completely okay. I'm going to show you how you develop a complete application and how you're going to clean it up, and how you're going to productionize it. I'm going to show you that as well. And another couple of important things, your Python files will be having .py extension. Your Python files will be having .py extension, and here whenever you're using notebook kind of environment, it will have ipynb extension. The full form of ipynb is interactive Python notebook. Okay, I repeat, interactive Python notebook. Okay, so let me take a pause here. Are we good, everyone? Perfect. This is another request from me. Since this is not a physical classroom session, I would not be able to interpret anything from your expressions. I won't even be able to see your expressions. So the only way I can be confident to jump on to the next topic is your acknowledgement. So please do acknowledge, guys. If you are lazy to type yes sir, I'm okay with Y as well, because I know I'm pretty lazy. Okay. Now, talking about your procedural and object oriented, this one would give you a good example of how a procedural language would look like, and this one would give you a good example of how object oriented programming structures would look like. So in object oriented programming structures or OOPS methodology, you would always implement your code in the form of classes and objects. You would always implement your code in the form of classes and objects. You write a class and you define different attributes, different methods that an instance of that particular class can perform, and you create an object and then operate on top of it. Like I said, we have a whole week to talk about OOPS concepts, guys. So I don't want to rush at this point in time, but at a high level, the one you're seeing on your left side of my screen is a example of procedural way of implementing your code, and the one you are seeing on the right side of my screen is an example for implementing a code in object oriented methodology. Okay, now this is some introduction about Python and its classifications. We'll jump on to features from tomorrow's session, guys, and we'd want to give you some resources for your practice, okay, in the first session itself, so that you can get started with all those things. Okay, so websites I would recommend for Python is tutorialspoint.com, and there is another website called javatpoint.com, and then you have another website programmis.com, and then if you are not a big fan of reading it as a tutorial but you want to read it as a blog, there are wonderful blogs that are written in geeksforgeeks.com, and then you have some wonderful blogs in medium.com, and then you have towards data science. There are wonderful Python blogs, guys, on these platforms. Towards datascience.com, and one of my favorite YouTube channel, Programming Hero. This is a YouTube channel, Programming Hero. Okay, this guy is amazing. Okay, so being a trainer without any ego, I would be more than happy to promote his channel. Sometimes I feel like copying all his examples in my course. Okay, I couldn't resist though. I have copied few of them, which I'll be showing you. A lot of fun in learning in this guy's channel. Okay, and then there is another competitive platform called HackerRank. Okay, try to create your profile in HackerRank, because like I said, the only way you can learn programming language is to make your hands as dirty as possible. HackerRank has many things. Okay, yeah, Manoj, definitely I can do that. Let me complete all the points. I'll be copying and pasting them on the chat window. Okay, and you guys also can feel free to take a screenshot of this if you want to. Right, HackerRank, and then maybe if you want to check your knowledge after completing this course, you can take a certification exam from Microsoft. Okay, so this is one standard exam for Python, guys, if you really want to take it. But when you talk about Python programming language, nobody would care for a certificate like your Java. Okay, so these are the different things which would help you to get started. I'm pasting them on your chat window for your reference. Okay. So with this, I'll be wrapping up today's session. Just few basics, right? And tomorrow I'm gonna walk you through Python features, and we'll jump onto programming concepts. We'll talk about variables and data types. Are we good, everyone? And try to have Google Colab account created, guys. Okay, and just try to get acquainted. Bhavya, any number of times you can take that exam, because that's not a free exam. Are we good, everyone? Enjoyed your first session? Cool. Have a great day. So first things first, Manoj, I would highly recommend you to go through my recordings first before referring to any other materials. Okay. And then probably you can use the resources, whatever that is available. Even this kind of handbooks would also be quite handy sometimes. Cool, then happy to be training you guys. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Happy learning.